Fully internal cable routing has gone too far. In this video, I'm going to tell you why I think fully internal cable routing is an unwelcome feature on many new bikes. You might disagree, of course, and if you do, I want to know why. Once you've listened to all of my arguments, let me know what you think in the comments below. Fully internal cable routing started out as a smart, watt-saving, front-end tidying feature for Aero race bikes, but it now appears to have turned into a must-have for almost every road and gravel bike at every price point. And I think that's a problem. How did we get here? It all began so innocently around the summer of 2015 when stock was plentiful and bike prices weren't rising faster than London property values. Mainstream brands such as Trek and Specialized released groundbreaking Aero road bikes like the 2016 Madone and the Venge Vias, both of which featured fully internal cable routing at the front end. No doubt, these probably weren't the first ever bikes to include fully internal cable routing, but this was when the mainstream brands started to jump on the trend. Being cylindrical in shape, gear and brake cables are not aerodynamically optimized. The wind doesn't like round things. A simple way to make a bike more slippery then is to tuck the cables away into a beautifully aero-optimized handlebar and frame set. Who could complain? Other than mechanics, of course, but when did that ever stop anyone? The market approved and other brands swiftly followed suit. At some point though, this feature started migrating from aero bikes to climbing bikes, then to endurance bikes and gravel bikes. And now it seems like almost every drop handlebar bike has fully internal cable routing. But what's the problem with fully internal cable routing? Well, in my opinion, fully internal cable routing is becoming pervasive on drop handlebar bikes of all levels, regardless of whether it really adds anything to the bike. On an aero road bike or a time trial bike, fully hidden cables make sense. With bikes like those, it's reasonable to want every marginal gain you can get. If you're not racing though, is it worth saving a few watts for all the added complexity that often comes with fully hidden cables? I don't think so. And I say this as someone who, as many of you will know, is often chasing vanishingly small gains. Beyond aero bikes, we're now starting to see the trickle down of fully internal cable routing to entry-level bikes. Take the recently announced 2022 Scott Speedster 50. It's the cheapest model in the new Speedster range and uses 2x7 speed non-series Shimano gearing with mechanical disc brakes, and it has fully internal cable routing through the headset and into the frame set. I'm going to be bold here and say that fully internal cable routing is not appropriate for this kind of bike. As with any internal cable routing, especially with mechanical gear and brake cables, the cables are subject to tighter bends and there's far less tolerance for poor setup. In turn, this means a higher likelihood of headaches such as spongy shifting and braking. Servicing parts like the headset or the gear and brake cables also becomes substantially more complex. Why? Because in many cases the whole front end will need to be disassembled just to swap the headset bearings or refresh the cables. On more expensive bikes, which often feature electronic group sets and hydraulic disc brakes, this is less of an issue. Wireless electronic group sets like SRAM's fully wireless ETAP or the wireless shifters on Shimano's new Dura Ace and Ultegra group sets suffer no ill effects from integrated front ends. And while threading electronic shifting wires through a complicated cockpit and frame set might be difficult to do initially, it's not a job that generally needs to be done very often. Though bleeding them is still a hassle, hydraulic brakes are also less sensitive to tight bends than mechanical gear and brake cables. And while it does make servicing more complex, owners of such fancy bikes may be willing to accept this to have a bike that's closer to the cutting edge of bike design. Equally though, if you can't adjust your bike fit or service your bike without booking it in at your local shop, the question remains as to whether the benefits will be tangible in the real world. What are the performance benefits? Okay, so internal cable routing is more aerodynamic, but how many watts of aero drag are we actually saving for all of this extra hassle? According to Canyon, Up to 3 watts in extreme cases is all we're likely to be getting out of fully hidden cables. We all know that brands like to use flattering language when it comes to performance claims, so I doubt Canyon is underselling this gain. In fact, Canyon has even caveated the wattage claim by saying in extreme cases, so it's probably fair to assume the gain is even smaller for more average riders like you and me. Now, in time trials or road races, where the margins between winning and losing can be so small, compromising simplicity and serviceability for 3 watts may be something you're willing to do. As someone who waxes chains, obsesses over rolling resistance charts for the best road tyres, and owns silly things like a teardrops helmet and Aero socks, I would want those 3 watts on a race bike, provided I don't need a mechanical engineering degree to service the bike. Is it a big enough gain to justify complex internal cable routing on bikes designed for general road or gravel riding though? I don't think so. Is cleanliness next to godliness? Okay, now I think we can all agree that clean cockpits do look amazing. And bike brands are likely trying to capture a far wider portion of the market with a headline-grabbing feature only previously seen on top-end bikes. That's nothing new in the world of bike tech, and as a less performance-minded aside, internal cable routing also makes mounting bike packing bags easier, if you're the kind of fashionable cyclist who does that. If either of those reasons is enough for you, that's perfectly okay. You do you. Having semi-external cable routing on my giant TCR disc though, hasn't caused me any issues this past year. It might seem like I'm being hypocritical here, as I've often argued aero gains can still matter even if you're not racing. But while big ticket changes like aero frame sets and deep section wheels typically bring tangible performance gains, the aero benefits of fully internal cable routing are essentially impossible to discern without controlled testing. Ultimately, on bikes not primarily designed with all-out, no-compromise speed in mind, fully internal cable routing seems like extra hassle for little detectable gain, and it is a trend I want to stop. What do you think though? Is fully internal cable routing a welcome feature on entry-level bikes, or is the added complexity a bad idea? As always, let me know in the comment section below. And if you haven't already, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to our channel and hit that little bell icon so that every time we upload a new video, you'll get a notification.